Hi, in this video we will demonstrate how to synchronize views within DockShell. So in DockShell, if you've watched the introductory video, which is where this particular model is derived from, we've done a number of things. We created a LightSwitch application that has a series of screens and based on a specific data source. And once we lay that down, the default views that we get from that initial laydown are what we call DockShell window layout controls. And every layout control, whether it be a window layout control or a embedded screen or a single view layout itself, each one of these and tile view layout, each one of these layout type controls have a relationship to a view container. And so each LightSwitch screen is injected inside that view container, and you can build your own view containers to define the XAML and basically control the overall look of your layout. What we're going to demonstrate right now is the ability to synchronize refresh on those layouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply draw a link between the view container for the customer list detail screen and the view container for the employee list detail screen. If we look at the options that we have a one-way option and a both-way option. And we also have the ability to say save changes first or just simply refresh after. What this refers to is that when this particular, in this scenario, because it's one way, so it's going this way only, when this particular screen, customer list detail screen, is saved, a message is sent to this particular view, if it's open, to refresh itself. If we have that set to save first, it will essentially tell this control to automatically save any changes it has and refresh those, refresh the view after it's done the save. So let's take a look at how this looks when we run it. So again, employees is linked to customer list detail. Okay, excellent. So let's open up the customer screen. And let's go over to this tab and we'll open up the employee screen. So the employee screen is actually, when it was last saved, it was saved in a floating state. That's why it's opening up in a floating state here. So as you recall, we made it so that if I make a change to, let's just change this to uppercase, and you notice as I move off that field, it automatically detects the change. And so now if I save this view, what should happen is we should see this one automatically do a refresh. There it is. So regardless of whether it needs to or not, it will automatically do that refresh. But you'll notice here that if I make a change on this side and save this, we don't see the same change happen on this side. So let's make that behavior in play. So that's simply by changing this, by changing this property here from one way to both ways and rerunning this. We should now see that effect that we're looking for to achieve, which is basically when I save the employee list screen, I also want to see my customer list detail screen save. Okay, and we're just opening up the customer screen, and we'll open up the employee screen now. So now, as you recall, if I make a change to this region, and again, I'll just make that as WA, and as I move over to this field on this particular screen, and let's make that small case and hit save, what we should see is we should see this screen save followed by this screen here. There you go. So now the changes are basically happening both ways, or the refresh rather is happening both ways. Excellent. So you may ask the question, can I link to more than one view? And the answer is of course. So let's just zoom out a little bit here and take a look. We have this order list detail screen. So what we'll do is we'll link from their customer list screen to the order list detail screen. And it's also set to both ways. So we'll run that and see what we get now. Okay, great. If you've watched the previous video, you know that in order for us to see the orders tab, it's set as a contextual group within our application. And in order to do that, we have to toggle the contextual group on. And now that we're there, we can actually open up the order screen. And so again, that one's opening up as window based, and so it's set to both ways, but we'll just change this and we'll make that again W and hit save. And what we should see is we should see a refresh happen on this particular screen here, and we do. And so now if we go to the employee screen, and we'll open that up as well, and we'll just, let's see, let's dock him over here maybe. So he's there, and let's dock him down below. So we see him there. There we go. And now if I make a change here and hit save, we should actually see a refresh on both of these two screens. There you go. All right, so that's how the link works, and I should maybe demonstrate this as well. As we save this, we should see this particular screen only refresh. As you recall, there was a both-way binding between these two. All right, great. The next item on our list of things to demonstrate is a new control, which is a single view layout control. So very much like the Windows layout control, which has a one-to-one relationship to a view container, which is where the LightSwitch screen itself is situated at runtime. And it is this view container that you are able to build your own and style your own view containers, which we refer to as the screen cron. With this single view layout control, it's basically the same thing. The difference here is that instead of this control being a control that is designed to be a dockable window, this is more better used as a tool window. So for example, if you wanted to create a modal window. So in this scenario here, we actually have a create new customer window. So what we'll do is we'll just simply remove that link from there. We can leave this control here and simply drag this up to here. And so now what we have is we have this single view layout control, which is now bound to this LightSwitch create new customer screen. And it has a view container, which is where that screen is going to be positioned. But the big difference, as I pointed out earlier, is that the export that we're using on here is actually based on the interface iSingleView layout control. And you can see here that it is actually using a RAD window control. Whereas, and so for those that aren't familiar with Telerak, that is more or less a tool window. Versus if we look at this particular control, we see that this is actually using a RAD pane control. So with that being said, so now that we have that defined, what we can do is take a look at some of these attributes. So you can see out of the box that the options for this particular view are shown here, which is it defaults to showing as modal. It allows the user to close and move and so forth. You can define a header title, which you can bind to the particular view. If you don't define that, it will default to the LightSwitch screen's title. And from an initialization, you can specify it to a specific startup location. So what we'll do is we'll, instead of saying manual, we'll say center it to the screen. And the view state is whether it's normal, minimized, or maximized on initialization. And then these other attributes here are defined, strictly used for positioning when you're in the manual mode. So now if we run this application, what we're hoping to see is that when we open up the create new customer screen, instead of it being a docking window, it'll actually be a modal window because we've set this up to be show as modal. Great, and so now, whoops, that's the wrong one. That's okay. We'll let that do its thing. And let's open up, I think it was add new customer. So what we're expecting to see is the add new customer is coming up. You can see that we probably want to set some size dimensions on the window itself. What you can see here is that the background, which is something that you can control within the actual definition of the RAD view itself. So you can create as many different rad view definitions, or what we refer to as single view layout controls, as you'd like. And as you can see here, it's coming up in the create new mode, and it's actually coming up in a modal view, right? So I won't actually save that. I'll just discard that. Now let's just change that, and we'll change it from modal, and let's change that to be non-modal. So, which is more or less a floating window, but it's actually a floating window, but it's not actually a dockable floating window. So let's see what that looks like. So as you recall, it's this particular button that we press. And now you can see it's coming up the same size and the same position and everything, but you can see that the background is not grayed out, so it's actually not running as a modal, it's just simply running as a floating window, which then allows us to kind of open up and do other, continue working with other screens whilst that one is open. We actually don't have a docking situation here, so I can't take this control and I can't dock it. It's really just a floating window, or a floating window that's non-dockable. Whereas this one here, as I make it floating, because it's based on a window layout control, it's more than capable of docking and doing whatever it needs to do from a Windows docking perspective. So there you go. That's the single view layout control, and then in this example we have it set up for a non-modal view, and we also demonstrated the view link. So actually, just to demonstrate view link, what we'll do, and this is probably not a good example here, but what we will do is let's link this particular screen to this particular screen. So we'll auto refresh the customer list detail screen when this particular screen saves. That's probably not a bad example. So let's do that and discard that. We'll just come out and do that link. So what we want to do then is we want to link between here, this particular screen. Now, you can hide the links, or you can just minimize the groupings to clean it up. So if we take this guy and we link it to there, and both ways is fine. And now we rerun that. Okay, great. So what we'll do is we'll open up this screen here, and we'll open up Add New Customer, which again opens up sort of flat. And the idea here is that I'm going to create a new customer ID. So we'll call this one, let's say Smith, and Smith Co. And hit save. What we should see is we should see this save, close. It'll actually open up another screen, which is the actual behavior of LightSwitch. And hopefully, if we look down this list here, it's actually refreshing automatically. But I think you get the idea, is that this would automatically have refreshed the screen. And in this case here, it probably refreshed also because I was navigating through here. But there you go. That is the DockShell SingleView Layout control, and along with the DockShell view linking or view synchronization capabilities. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this video.